Welcome to Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric, a show about the international teaching experience. Teaching internationally is one of the best decisions you can make as an educator. In this show, we will meet teachers and administrators from around the globe living and working internationally. Our hope is that their stories and experiences will inspire you to explore the world of education. We will learn about all aspects of international teaching, from becoming an international teacher to what countries are the best fit for you, to the challenges of being away from your home country. Come take this unforgettable journey to the world of international schools with Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from. Welcome to Global Take, a show about the international teaching experience. Today we discuss every international teacher's dilemma, which is, should I stay or should I go? Let's go ahead and take a look at our intro.
Should I stay or should I go?
I am joined by 4 educators from around the world. We're excited to talk with all of them about that dilemma that we all face as international educators. I've got Gwinyai, who is in Paris, France. I've got Marta, who is in Montreal, Canada. And I've got Noah, who is in Jakarta, Indonesia. I myself here at Austin, Texas. I worked as an international teacher. I am the co-founder of SchoolRubric. And today we're going to hear from all of them about the international teaching experience and that dilemma of should you stay or should you go. Let's start by just telling us a little bit about our role at our school and what you love about where you live. So Noah, can you start things off for us?
Yeah, happy to, Ryan. It's great to be here. My name's Noah Bohnen, and I am currently in Jakarta, Indonesia, and I'm serving as the middle school principal. My second year here at the school, and it's fantastic. It's a great conference. I asked this as those monster international schools, and it's very exciting for my family to live and work here.
Thank you, Noah. We're excited to have you all the way tuning in from Jakarta. And let's move around the room. Marta in Montreal, Canada. Tell us a little bit about your current role and what you love about Montreal.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for having me. Yes, we are here in Montreal. It's a heat wave, but I enjoy so much Montreal and then all the artistic and then the side of the cultural side of the city. I am actually a researcher in pedagogy and drama and education and at McGill in Canada.
And Marta and I had the pleasure of working together. We met in Rio de Janeiro at the American School in Rio de Janeiro. And of course, she's going to talk about art because I know that drama and everything art at the International School in Rio was what she was about. And Gwinyai, tell us a little bit about you and your new role in Paris, France.
Yes, my name is Gwinyai Jambga. I'm the Athletic and Activities Director at the American School of Paris in France. I enjoy working here. I spent my formative years here as a student in middle school and high school. I actually graduated from here in 1989, and it's very exciting to be back where I went to school and helping the admin team continue to guide ASP forward.
Well, we're excited to have you all here today and to discuss this international teaching dilemma that everyone has faced at some time in their international teaching career. I do want to tell our viewers that if you're tuning in live on YouTube or Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment for us or a question or just let us know how you're doing. This, of course, is on both platforms today. And finally, I would like to say that, yeah, we have this is part of our Global Take part of SchoolRubric. So we encourage you to find us anywhere for Global Take on Twitter. And Also, anywhere on our social media platforms for SchoolRubric. You can find us Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. But please, we do want to hear from all of you, so don't be shy. Leave a comment or drop a question if you can. But let's get right into it. We are going to go to our first question related to today's topic. Let's roll the question, producers.
Question number 1. What were your reasons for leaving an international school?
Now, I myself have taught at 3 international schools, and this is always a big dilemma, right, about getting your new job. So we're going to go right around the room and just hear from all of you about what are your reasons for maybe leaving your last school. It doesn't even have to be your last school, but really any school. What were reasons? Gwinyai, why don't we start with you? You just left from Paraguay to Paris, so maybe you can tell us a little bit about what are some of the reasons you've left schools.
Some of the reasons I've left schools before Paraguay, I was in Harare, Zimbabwe. And my family and I, we always make our decisions as family and in terms of what's best for our family. So both leaving Harare International School and the American School of Ascension in Paraguay, my decisions were twofold. One was family considerations at the time. And then the second reason was for career advancement in new environments. So those were our 2 main deciding reasons for leaving our last 2 posts.
Yeah, family is always important when you're making that important decision to leave a school. Marta, maybe you could talk a little bit about you. I know that you had 3 little ones when you left, or I shouldn't say little because they're not so little, but you had 3 of your own when you were leaving the American school, Rio de Janeiro.
Yes, so it's as Gwen said, it's very important to think about the whole family because, of course, you're the driving force. So your career, of course, should be the motor of that. But you have to think about everyone's happiness, especially if kids have like special needs or this is very important when you think where you're going. But so I moved from the American school in Rio to the British school in Shanghai. So we spent 3 years in China, which was great for them. And what I was looking for was more of a collaboration in creativity and professional development opportunities. So this was my main driving force for moving forward.
Yeah, I couldn't believe when I heard you were leaving the American school in Rio de Janeiro. You were such a fixture there with the drama department. So I know those are difficult decisions because, you become such a part of the community of the school where you are. Noah, could you add, what are some of your experiences of leaving schools?
I think my colleagues made some really great points there about family and about opportunity. I've been overseas for 20 years, and so in 4 different schools. And I think that in a lot of ways, I was a very different guy in a very different position in my life each time I left those schools. And so I think about a few things. One, I think there's a little bit of a sense of timing, and it can be your family. Like you don't want to move your kids when they're about to go into 12th grade or something like that, right? So you've got to look at the grades that they're about to go into and time that well. You've got to look at the opportunities. And then I think you also have to, leave while the party's still good. Every school that I've left, I've loved, and I remember really fondly, and I would never, ever want to stay in a place to a point where I was starting to feel frustrated or stifled. So I think always looking to make sure you're being challenged and that you can grow. And if you feel that, that might not be the case in another year or 2, then you need to, decide and really, put your feet in the water and take the plunge.
I love that. Leave while the party is still good. And thinking back to some of my experiences of leaving schools, and we'll get into at the end some tips for people. I didn't always leave on the best terms of the schools where I was, and in some cases, I didn't even have you didn't even have the option of staying longer. Some of these schools, like the school in Rio de Janeiro for expats, actually had a cap on how many years that you could actually stay there. So you really didn't have a choice to, hey, I want to continue after year 5. That created some of its own challenges. The people that did stay would kind of leave and come back on a local hire contract. But I know this next question is what I really want to talk about and hear some of your everyone's advice. So producers, can you go ahead and roll that second question? Let's get right into it.
Question 2, this is a great question. What are some factors to determine if there is an opportunity for career advancement at my current school? Or if I should search elsewhere.
Yeah, a really important point about career advancement and thinking about career advancement. We've already heard a few comments about professional development. Marta, can you talk a little bit about this?
Yes, I think for me it was one of the greatest reasons for moving forward from the American to the British school is the possibility of professional development. Because as an artist, going to education, you feel like, okay, you have enough to give your students, but at the same time, you need to be fed. You need to share with other artists as well. And then I had this great opportunity because at the British school, they just have signed this partnership with Juilliard, for instance, which is like a dream. So I managed to combine not only my artistic, endeavors with the teachers, with the school as well. And then bringing this knowledge back to the classroom. It was really the reason why I moved forward, because of that great opportunity that I wouldn't have if I stayed in Brazil, for instance.
Yeah, professional development is a huge thing in terms of thinking about where to go next, and also I think in some cases thinking about a role that can get you into a position that's maybe if you're leaving from the classroom to a more administrative role. I know, Noah, you're in administration now. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that whole dilemma.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I think there's two factors here, and I don't think they're different. I think sometimes growth and the job title, like you can still experience real growth if your job title doesn't change, and that idea of always wanting to be pushing yourself and that feeling that you're growing is really, really important. But I have left a school before because I concluded that I'd kind of met the end of the road in terms of like how far I could go in that place. And when I looked for the next school, I was really sure to look for a school that was big enough that there would be a lot of opportunities that could present themselves, and there's always been a certain type of school that I've liked to work at. And I looked at that type of school, but on a bigger scale, if I felt that I was ready for some advancement in that sense. But if I don't feel like, for instance, I was the middle school principal in Moscow, and it was amazing. I couldn't recommend that experience enough, but I knew that I always wanted to test myself on the stage in Southeast Asia. Like these are the big schools. And I always felt if I could be a great principal here, then that would really, prove my mettle. And it's definitely pushing. It's a great growth opportunity coming here. It's a challenging job. And I think for that reason, I'm engaged and I'm happy to go into work every day. So I think, sometimes it's going from a smaller school to a bigger school to try that as a teacher, or from a principal in a large school, but to a monstrous school just to try that out.
Yeah, and I do think there's something to be said about there are some of those big international schools that we all know about as international educators in terms of they're kind of those schools a little bit on the pedestal, right? They're just sort of, they've got a big school population. They do a lot of recruitment. There's a lot of competition to get into those schools. So I know it's got to be exciting to come to a school like the Jakarta International School, which is today's school spotlight, which Noah will be highlighting a lot regarding this school today, right after this little question. So I'm excited to hear more about Jakarta International School. Or is it JIS? Is that kind of?
It's Jakarta. Well, they all the schools in Indonesia legally have to be called intercultural schools now. You're not allowed to call yourself an international school anymore. But when we first were on the circuit, it was Jakarta International School, but now it's Jakarta Intercultural School. But yeah, and the short form is, of course, JIS.
JIS, yeah. Well, interesting about that with the intercultural school, noted. And then, Gwinyai, I do want to hear from you in terms of, what are some of the things that you've thought about in regards to staying with career advancement? We know you just moved from Paraguay to Paris. And I do think it should be noted that Gwinyai, you actually studied at the school in Paris where you are now currently, correct?
Yes, I was a student here. And I wanted to echo, just based on the question you asked, Marta and Noah were very eloquent with their answers, and I want to piggyback on that. You want to challenge yourself. Once you hit a plateau at a certain school, I think you have to look at opportunities to go bigger, and to advance your career. And I think the move I made from Paraguay to Paris it's not only because, the school that I'm at now, has a great reputation worldwide. It's also, it allowed me to step out of just being, I do have the same role here. I'm activities and athletics director. But where I was before, I was not part of the admin team and the decision-making team. Whereas now, I'm part of that team. My department gets to also dictate, how the school's moving forward. So I think that was one of the driving forces that allowed me to make this jump. Just to continue to push myself and advance my career.
How exciting to hear that the athletic department and the physical education department is part of that admin team, and I think it's so important to help with that decision making. I know that part of this global take is we do have a lot of focus on athletics, and our other host, Nick DeForest, who is involved in that, who will be hosting next week's episode. We put a big emphasis on that, the athletic side and the physical education side of all schools. For me too, I know that when I left Rio de Janeiro, one of the opportunities was for me, I didn't really change roles, but I had an opportunity to teach at an IB school. And so sort of thinking about building up that resume and really doing some things and doing something that was more challenging. Teaching IB was a more challenging position. And I also had the opportunity to teach different subject level. So I think those are all things that I considered when making my move. But before we get to our tips today, we do want to spotlight a school. We'd like to do that on every episode of Global Take, where we basically travel around the world and learn about different schools. And you can find all of our school spotlights on our YouTube channel. We have schools in Luxembourg, we have Manila, we have done Peru, we have done the American school where Marta and I have taught. So today we're going to be spotlighting the school in Jakarta, JIS, where Noah is. So let's go ahead and roll the intro and hear from Noah.
It's time for School Spotlight on Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric. Let's learn more about the stories and information from schools around the world. What's your school story?
So it's exciting for me to be able to represent our school. This is Jakarta Intercultural School. It's located in South Jakarta, and it is a fantastic place. You can see in that photo, we have the Dragon Fountain, which is very much the heart of our school. A lot of the times people will congregate around the Dragon Fountain for various functions. We had our graduation ceremony by the Dragon Fountain in the spring. And in the top right, you can see as well that we are about to celebrate our 70th birthday on September 1st. So it's pretty exciting. We go to the next slide, please. And so here's just a few details about JIS at a glance. The first is we have over 1,900 students. We have 70 plus nationalities represented in the school. So it is a real international school. It isn't a school with, there's a lot of schools, sometimes you might have 100% host nationalities, it isn't bad, it's just different. It's a true international school. We have 3 campuses. And there's over 20 plus hectares in our current campus that I'm sitting on right now. It is a jungle oasis in the middle of a monstrous Asian city. It's really quite something to see. Our faculty and staff is quite diverse. We have over 20 nationalities represented. Our host country plays a strong role in that, but we also have a great number of Americans, Canadians, Brits, Australians, Indians, from everywhere. And the average faculty tenure at our school is a little bit over 6 years. So the biggest part of our mission statement is that idea of learning in Indonesia to be best for the world. And so the theme of service, of living beyond yourself, is very, very large. We are a community of care. We always talk about value-added interactions. And what you can see right now is the beautiful Bali stage in the middle school, where once a week we congregate as a school and come together to share our values and celebrate each other. Life in Indonesia it's honestly great. It completely has exceeded my expectations with a year here. I think there's a few factors. One, I mean, it's a paradise in the sense the weather is wonderful. We are right at the base of volcanoes. There's tons of opportunities. If you hop in a plane for an hour, you're in Bali, you're scuba diving, you're climbing volcanoes. And I think even more important than that, Indonesians are absolutely lovely people. I cannot think of a kinder, more welcoming group of people that you could ever be greeted by. And the language is it's a snap to learn. So you can very quickly converse with people and be understood. And that really helps you connect with the culture as well. As you can see up there, we have our beautiful aquatics facility. That is the high school. It's the greenest campus you could ever imagine, but I think you can get a better glimpse if we just watch this short video.
For 13 years, I've had the chance to kind of live out my professional dream. So as a teacher, I couldn't have found a better place to teach.
This is my oasis. This is where I come to get relief from almost everything, and I love just because of that.
I was walking through our neighborhood the other day with our 10-year-old, and I asked her, well, you know, how do you feel about this, about our lives here? And she kind of looked at me like I was nuts, and she was like, what do you mean? This is home. And I thought, well, okay, the reason that she's thinking this is because she feels known, she feels seen. It's a huge school, but she feels loved and supported and known even in this big school. And both of our girls love Jess.
One word, family, kind of sums up Jess altogether. This is my home.
So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I guess just the closing comment that I'd say is that when I came out here as a finalist for my interview 2 Augusts ago, I asked to be interviewed by students, and the reason why I asked to be interviewed by students is because I wanted to see if my boys would find a home here and if the kids kind of shared our family's values. And needless to say, again, even though it's a beautiful site and it's an incredible school, it's the people that make it so special and the values that we share, and it's just a great place to be.
Thank you for traveling across the globe with us to learn more about international schools. To hear more from international educators and learn more about these fantastic institutions, tune in to our live Global Take episodes as we highlight international schools in our School Spotlight section presented by SchoolRubric.
Amazing. I love hearing everybody say the word home when thinking about their place at the JIS school. And I'll put you on the spot for a little bit because I did hear you say that learning the language in Indonesian is very easy, pretty easy. So since you've been there now, give me something that you can now say that you couldn't say before.
Tidak masalah, which means, or tidak apa-apa, and both of them mean the same thing. It means no problem.
That's amazing. Yeah, what an exciting place to work, and you can see that passion come through with all the people all the educators that were there. We're going to roll into our last question, which is kind of some tips for all of you watching about what to do when leaving when leaving a school. What you need to do. Don't forget to do these things. Roll the clip, producers.
Before we go, one final question. What advice do you have for people leaving an international school?
All right, Noah, since we just heard from you about the Jakarta International School, what tips do you have for, and you've been doing this a long time, so I know you probably got some great tips for people out there watching.
Okay, I don't want to take too much of the spotlight on this, but there's two big ones that I would share. The first one is try to stay at least 3 years, because if you're not in a school for 3 years, you're never there. Your first year, you're trying to find your way, you're trying to figure things out. Your last year, you're in two places at once to some degree. And so then you're only actually there for that middle year. So try to at least do 3 years or you're never actually in the country, But my biggest advice, and I feel so strongly about this. You're only as good as your last 3 months. That's what people are going to remember you for. And so if you've been an excellent teacher, then be even more excellent for those last 3 months. Leave with gratitude, leave with grace, leave with leaving a legacy of kindness and responsibility and duty to children. Because it really saddens me when I see people who've had a wonderful career at a school try to divorce themselves early from the school and burn bridges. Because unfortunately, that's what people remember, So leave with class.
And I think it's hard to do, right? Because you are, like you said, you are at two places at once, and you're really thinking about what, where you're going to live in the next country, what you got to do for that next country. But you are so right in terms of, and you're going to have to use them again when thinking about other opportunities. And I know that's one of the tips that I'm going to mention. But let's hear from Marta. What are some tips you have for some people when they're leaving their school?
Yes, I think I totally agree with Noah. Think of your legacy, think what you're leaving behind. And I think if you're going to go for a big jump, you really have to check that basis, which is where you're going from. You're taking off from that school to go to the other one. So this should be really solid as a reference, And then, of course, when you're leaving, you have to think of your children and then your known humans, all the paths you're taking with you. And this takes a lot of time as well. So plan well ahead so it's as smooth as possible. And then keep your friendships, because this is what you're going to take with you for your next school as well.
Keep those friendships, smooth transition, great advice. Gwinyai, what do you have for us?
When you leave, just make sure that people are going to remember you. Noah, you highlighted it very well. You want to be remembered as someone who has left an impact, a good stamp on that school. That way, if somebody calls and says, hey, we hear Gwinyai used to work here, what kind of person was he? You don't want to hear negative things. You got to make sure that you've left a positive impact on the students, the community, and your colleagues. But also, as you move forward, you have to make sure that you've given careful consideration to your family. We now live in a pandemic world, your safety and your health, and also prioritize your decision on continuing to grow as a professional. I think those are my keys for people who are making the huge jump.
Positive legacy, your professional development. I was laughing there when you said make sure they remember you, because I know that in certain instances, I left schools where I was definitely remembered, but probably not for the best reasons. But I would just add to that I do think it's really important, just some logistical things. Make sure you get those references. When you're trying to apply through Search Associates or a lot of schools, they are going to look at those, and it's just an item that you want to have. You want to make sure that you go to. It's harder to do that a year or two down the road when people, not that they've forgotten what you've done, but it's easier to get those references that are more detailed in regards to what you did at the school in terms of what you facilitated, the success stories that you had there. So make sure you get your references before you leave. Don't wait till the last minute. And then I would just throw this out there for all of there are certain times when it may be the right move to move on from education. And me personally, that's something I've done in my career. I'm still involved here with SchoolRubric, but I think as teachers, there's this fear if you've been doing it for a certain while, this fear to get out of teaching. And I know Marta is now at the university level. I was at university, now I'm in tech. That there are so many skills that you learn as a teacher and educator, and you can make that transition to something else. So don't be afraid to tackle something else, okay? Whether it's even, maybe jump into administration and teaching or something outside of a school and education. So I would sum that up there. So a lot of great tips from all of you. I do want to highlight a few things before we go today. Please like and share this out. We are on YouTube and Twitter today, so you can take that link and share it out wherever you are. And I do want to encourage all of you to join our Facebook group where we can continue this conversation. We're going to throw that up on the screen, which is our Facebook group, the Global Educators Network. It's a great opportunity for you to interact with educators from all around the world and ask questions, get questions answered, or just connect with educators. And then finally, the last thing I do want to mention, which is related to our other host, Nick DeForest, which I know he's watching. I just saw a comment from him on YouTube, but he's got an amazing conference coming up. This is the Globetrotting Act. There's his comment. He's not going anywhere. He's been there for a while. Globetrotting Activity Network Conference. This is part of the Globetrotting ADs Network, and they are super involved with these creating these conferences. This is an amazing opportunity. It's December 1st and 2nd. They're calling on people that are interested in doing workshops, anything activity related. You can go to www.globetrotting80s.com for details. So if you're interested in maybe helping with one of these workshops or just participating in a workshop, again, that's globetrotting80s.com. You can find that information. It'll be in the show notes also. I do want to thank our guests. So thank you, Marta, Gwinyai, Noah. It was a pleasure having you all, and we hope to have you again on Global Take in the future. This is the part where we all wave the camera and say goodbye. So bye, everybody watching. Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching School Rubric on YouTube. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe in order to stay looped in on all of our diverse collection of shows, interviews, panels, tutorials, and more from educators around the globe. And visit us at SchoolRubric.com for even more great content such as our online articles, Interact magazine, featured podcasts, and more. Thank you.